Don't believe everything you see on YouTube thumbnails, boys and girls. I've not actually aged as much as it appeared over the last couple of days. Look, it's me, very young looking Kev still. We are going to look at the non-league to legend universe 5 years in the future. Hello folks and welcome to Non-League to Legend 5 years later, a video in which we go through the Non-League to Legend universe 5 years after the save finish and have a look to see what's gone on. We're going to be going through each of the clubs we managed in order and then having a look at the wider footballing universe, basically to have a look at what kind of difference me existing made. This video has the potential to make me not feel very good. We're starting things off with Peterborough Sports and not feeling very good part one, because Peterborough Sports appear to not be in a playable league anymore. I'm not quite sure when this happened, how this happened, but as you can see, they're done. Did they ever go professional with me as the manager? I can see they're semi-professional on here. I don't know. Did we ever go pro? I don't know that we did. They did move to the Jimmy Dean Stadium in 2027, which is a bit of a kick in the nuts for me, as I'd like to think I was a more notable manager than Jimmy Dean, my predecessor was, but apparently not. And it's 2029. They were first relegated from the National League North. And then I guess they made it back because 2031, they were relegated from the National League North again. And then 2035, once again, relegated from the National League North. So they became a little bit of a yo-yo team. But it looks like the most recent relegation, 2035, was the final one. It's now 2042. It's 7 years since they've been in a playable league. I think they're done. They've gone back whence they came. The Isthmian Division 1 Southern Central, which I don't even think is the league Peterborough Sports would go into. I don't think they'd be an Isthmian League team. I think they were Southern League, Northern Premier. I don't know what league they came up through. My knowledge, not acceptable. I'm also not on the favoured personnel list, which is a little bit of a blow. Some of my players are. Francis Okoronkwo is a club icon. Dan Lawler, who was my assistant manager briefly, I think, is also a club icon, but I think he was before me. And they do have what appears to be two current players, or Victor Watson, I guess, is a previous player who is now a legend, and a current player, Eric Unlove, who is considered a Peterborough Sports legend, having been there for the final season in the National League North and then just stuck with them ever since. That's a weird way to become a legend at a football club. I'm not even on the favoured personnel, but this left back who's played, I don't understand. Next club, please. I'm deliberately trying not to look at the wider footballing world until the end of the video. I've not looked at anything on this since holidaying it through. This is all fresh to me. And the first thing that I'm noticing straight away when we look at Preston is that Stephen Ferguson is not the Preston manager anymore. He actually left the club. Edin Terzic took over, was previously Napoli manager until last year. So he's been a Preston manager for the last year. Also interesting to note that Alex Turnbull is their captain now. I was actually trying to sign him at Liverpool just before the end of the series. So obviously he didn't go to Liverpool. He stuck it out at Preston and he's now on their favoured personnel list. I'm looking for Stephen Ferguson. He's on the icon list. I am not listed anywhere, despite being the man who started it all, who dragged them up out of the Championship, established them as a Premier League club. I don't get any recognition at all at Preston. Good to see one of my boys is on the icons list. So Gabriel Sartore is still there all these years later, age 34. We signed this guy as a promising youngster. And to be fair, he's got over 100 caps for Italy. This is a bona fide Italian footballing legend. 101 caps, 34 goals, has spent, 15 years? Getting on for 15 years at Preston. Clearly, Preston are still quite good. Let's see what happened to Ferguson in the end. Ferguson is unemployed. He left Preston in 2040, so 2 years ago, presumably was sacked by Preston and has never managed to get a job elsewhere. Sacked as manager of Preston after losing the confidence of the dressing room. Yikes. Did win a few European trophies at various points. I mean, he was manager of Preston for a long time. He had, 10 years? 10 years at Preston? How do we just see easily what jobs he had? This screen is rubbish. So 10 years as manager of Preston. made him an icon, but he did get sacked. If we look at what Preston have done, they never did manage to win the Premier League. The closest they got that season that they finished second, I think, was that... When was the season I left? I left way back here. I think they finished down in the bottom half of the table the year I left, but they have most recently made it back up to third place after quite a disappointing period, really. I think that last season, that was the year they pushed Liverpool close for the title. That was the last season that we were involved in this universe. They finished 8th, then 7th, 10th, and I guess Ferguson sacked in there somewhere. And most recently, they finished 3rd last year, and they finished 3rd again this year. So they are back to being a Champions League team. But yeah, no recognition of my contribution to any of that. Is this going to be a theme? I'm going to be very sad if this is a theme. Although I'll level with you, I would have been quite sad if Spurs had been the only one who recognised my contribution. Thankfully, they haven't. You know, I only won the Champions League with this lot. Phil Brindley, another one of my former boys, is now the captain, age 32. We always knew he was going to be good. Goodness me, was he good? He was very good. Phil Brindley, superstar. But absolutely no sign of me on the icons list, the favoured personnel list. In fact, there's not even any of my boys have made it onto any of these. I mean, the only one who's got close, Finn Possell, is on the favoured personnel list, who we signed for £54 million pretty much as soon as we arrived at Tottenham. And he has gone on to make nearly 100 appearances for Germany. It looks like he's not playing international football anymore. So he has stopped just before getting to his century. But I guess he was my greatest contribution to Spurs, if you don't count the fact that the only time they've won the Champions League in their history was this guy. Not only that, the only time they've won anything worth winning. I mean, it's literally the only trophy outside of the FA Cup since 1991 was a Champions League won by me, and I'm not even on the favoured personnel list. What have I got to do to get some recognition around here? I mean, they've been pretty consistently top 4 apart from that season where they plunged down, but they have made it back up to typical kind of Spursy 4th, 5th kind of positions, but never looked like winning the Champions League again. Didn't ever look like winning it before. I won it. Who cares? We don't like it. It's almost as if I immediately took them out of the intro and then carried on saying bad things about them, and the fans maybe held that against me. Harsh as that may seem, I really am starting to take it personally at this point, because now we're at Barcelona, and once again, no sign whatsoever of me on the favoured personnel, icons, or legends list. It is nice to see that Adama Sakuna has made it onto the legends list at Barcelona. He was obviously a player that we brought in. He's been an absolute ridiculous goal machine for them for the last 10 plus years. Still playing now. Weirdly, only 38 caps for Spain. Doubly weird because he got 31 goals in those 38 caps. Baffling that he didn't play more times for Spain, but he did make it up to be a club legend, as did Pedri and Gavi, who of course benefited from my tutelage for a little while. Endri Osmani, who we brought in. There was a few question marks raised when we spent a lot of money on this guy, but he's a Barcelona icon who's done 10 years at the club, so I guess that makes that fee a little bit more easier to stomach now. Ander La Cruz is still there as well, all these years later, as a club icon. A number of really good signings that set this club up for the long term. Balde has made it onto the icons as well, who of course was under my management. I didn't sign him, but he played for me. And Thilo Brandenberger, the one that we chased for a very long time because he's 6'5". He's 143 caps, presumably spent most of his career partnering Finn Possell at the back for Germany. And another one who's just been there a very long time, done very, very well. Obviously, we won the Champions League with Barcelona. There's less of an argument to say we set this club up, because obviously they were already Barcelona. They were Barcelona while I was there, and they continued to be Barcelona after I left, although they have fallen off a little bit last season, where they only finished 3rd, which is their lowest finish since just before I left. I think that's when I arrived. And we won it twice in a row and won the Champions League, if I remember rightly. They've not won the Champions League since me, though, which, again, got to feel a little bit hard done by that I'm not on at least on the favoured personnel list. If you look back at the previous Barcelona managers who've won the Champions League, I would imagine the majority of them are probably somewhere on this list. No sign of me, though. And yeah, I do feel a little bit hard done by that. Which, of course, brings us to Juventus, who have vice-captain Federico Taglioli and captain Carmine Agostini. What a superstar this guy has turned into. 32 years old now. Remember when we signed him as a teenager for Barcelona? 132 caps for Italy, 9 goals. It looks like he's pretty much established himself as a fullback as his career has gone on. We were never quite sure whether he was a fullback or a midfielder, but he's definitely seems to have become a defender and hasn't scored a goal in 5 years, which is quite an impressive feat for somebody who did score quite regularly under me. 2 for Barcelona there. And then when we were at Juventus, he was always scoring goals, getting assists. Looks like they've played him in a much more defensive role. His assists, his goals, everything has dropped off, apart from his average rating, which has just stayed consistently high, where presumably as his career has gone on, he's just focused on being the captain and doing the defending. And it seems to have served him quite well. I'm not on here. I mean, at this point, obviously, I'm not on here. I'm not going to be on any of these. Do I just get deleted from the universe when I retire? Bilger has made it onto the icons list, though, who never left Juventus. I guess we probably put him on too much money too young and just made it impossible for him to ever leave, which is interesting because Italy isn't a particularly strong league. So despite him being an absolute superstar, still only 27 now. So, you know, still theoretically not yet reached his prime, but already has over 100 caps and 64 international goals for Belgium. He's earning nearly £500,000 a week and is just sensationally good still for Juventus. He's already a club icon there. You got to wonder if we were to do 5 more years, presumably he goes on to a mega club somewhere, because if you look at Serie A, it's only the 4th best team in the game. And to me, Bilger is too big to be messing around and spending his entire career in Italy. He needs to go and test himself in Spain or Germany or England. And there's no other really obvious players of mine. Taglioli's on there on the icons list. Agostini's only favoured personnel despite being captain. Junior Mansoret is still knocking around at Juventus as well. So he turned into a pretty solid signing as well. Lazrak, who of course we brought in at the same time as Bilger. There you go. That's an example of what Bilger needs to do. But before it's too late, he's gone to Manchester United at 34 years old, kind of spent his entire career, apart from that one World Cup where Bilger was injured, spent his entire career second fiddle to Bilger at club and country level. Finally, at 34, goes to Manchester United, but he's testing himself in the Premier League a little bit too late. And I hope that Bilger doesn't make the same mistake. Boatini is also on there. All the defensive midfielders at Juventus. Did they ever win the Champions League? They did. My word, they won it twice. Well, talk about setting this club up for glory. I'm taking all the credit. That team that we put together, I mean, that's happened very shortly after I left the club. We only did 2 years at Liverpool, so that's what, 3-4 years after I left, they've won back-to-back Champions Leagues. Bilger has just led them to absolute greatness. Where is he? I can't find him now. There he is. Presumably, he's got Ballon d'Ors and all sorts in here. He's won Serie A 8 times, Champions League twice consecutively, the Fanta Cup 6 times. But his personal accolades, what's he got on here? Obviously, we know all about his next-gen European Golden Boy, all that kind of stuff. But surely, somewhere in here, we've got Ballon d'Or 3rd place on 3 occasions. So he's never actually won Ballon d'Or. FIFA Best Men's Player 3rd place on 2 occasions. This is the kind of stuff where if he went to a big club in a big league, it might be a difference maker for him there. But yeah, Juventus, back-to-back Champions Leagues and just continuing to win Serie A as they do. That is, I mean, I'm taking credit. I've got to take some credit for something. No club is giving me any credit. I'm not on a single favoured personnel list. One more, but I imagine I'm not on Liverpool's either. Oh, the Liverpool fans really, really love me. You can't see because it's behind my head. But I assure you, I am there at the bottom of the favoured personnel list for Liverpool, alongside Aspas, one of my boys, Jude Bellingham, Adama. There's a lot of... Maurizio Pochettino, is he before or after me? He is the current Liverpool manager. He's been there 5 years, a 70-year-old Pochettino. They like him better than they like me, which does make me a little bit sad. I'm just seeing if any of my boys have made it to icon status. Obviously, the gap between me leaving Liverpool and now is a lot shorter, and Liverpool have a pretty significant list of club legends that you have to fight through to get there as well. Borges made it onto the icon list, though, which is very good to see. I wonder, part of me thinks the discussion isn't Messi or Ronaldo in this version of the future. It's Borg or Bilger, two youngsters that I discovered. I'm taking all the credit for. Has this guy won the Ballon d'Or? Because he started out not looking as good as Bilger, but he's gone on to play 6-7 years at Liverpool, which is kind of a bigger deal than doing 9 or 10 at Juventus, I would suspect. That being said, he has also not won the Ballon d'Or. He's got FIFA Best Men's Player 3rd place once. But yeah, we need to find out who's been winning the Ballon d'Or, see if it's somebody whose name we recognise. Liverpool, did they carry on being successful after me? They did win the Champions League another time, so I won number 12. They've had a number 13 since then as well, and also won a couple more Premier Leagues. Does the team still look like my team? Not massively. Jallo's still there, still knocking around. Jaeger is still there, but bearing in mind we're only 5 years after I left, they're playing left-footed Corgi at right back. Blanco is still going strong with 154 caps. He turned into a decent enough signing, didn't he? But there is Liverpool having just won the Premier League, which, I mean, it's just Liverpool and Man City exchanging titles 20 years in the future. Doesn't that sound like a super duper fun place to live? Right, let's have a look at the wider footballing universe. So, Champions League winners. Since the save ended, obviously, we're pretty familiar with who was winning it while the save was going on. That was our last one with Liverpool. Since then, it's had a very Kev flavour to it. Juventus, Arsenal, Liverpool, Arsenal. Obviously, I didn't manage Arsenal. They beat Juventus in that final as well. Juventus, one match away from going 3 in a row in the Champions League. What a Juventus team we've put together there. Goodness me. I again, got to take the credit. The Juventus team looks more like my team than the Liverpool team looks like my Liverpool team. I'm mainly saying that because the front two are both mine. That's interesting. They've got Amgar playing as a striker. I guess he did play as a striker for most of his career, looking at those goals. Is he the guy who took over from Vlahovic, the guy we brought in to play left back? He's got over 100 caps for France. Obviously, France are not playing him up front. He's only got 7 goals and 107 caps for France. But looking at his goal return at Juventus, it seems like he's spent his career there playing as a centre forward. What a weird little career that man has had. But yeah, that's the Champions League. I need to move my beverage out of the way so I can navigate to my keyboard a little bit. Here we go. So World Cup and then Ballon d'Or, I guess, and then we'll wrap things up. So FIFA World Cup, past winners. We didn't focus on much of this while the save was going on. So the most recent winner is France. Can we from here see Ballon d'Or? How do you spell Ballon d'Or? Is it Ballon like that? Ballon. Ballon. There we go. I knew there was a thing in it somewhere. So your current Ballon d'Or holder, the guy who's keeping Bilger off of winning this, Ibrahim Fofana, who is a name that I recognise from being in a roundabout and in the save. I don't think it was ever on my radar to sign him. He signed for Manchester City when we would have been at... Were we at Tottenham or Barcelona then? Either way, that's a lot of money, but he obviously went on to become an absolute superstar. Good to see Jallo really up there competing for it as well. At 34 years old, Jallo has had an absolutely incredible career for Liverpool. And then this guy, Steven Jurjevic, again, not a name that I'm particularly familiar with. Jallo won it last year. Fofana was there in 3rd place. I remember Dan from my time in Italy. It was just always amused me that they had a player just called Dan. But yeah, he's done 15 years at Inter and then gone on and won the Ballon d'Or, which is quite impressive. That was one of the years Bilger finished in 3rd place. Dortmund have got a guy called Mohamed Mahmoud who won it, who'd been with them. Again, that's a name that I don't ever remember coming across, Mohamed Mahmoud, on a scout report. Imhoff, I definitely did. I tried to sign him at one point. I forget who for, but he was definitely someone that I was aware existed. And there's Bilger. And then you've got the 2 that Jallo won while I was Liverpool manager. Before that, Sakuna. Yeah, I mean, this is very much, there was a spell there where for 5 years in a row, it was my boys winning the Ballon d'Or. I will take that. Best goalkeeper, Marvin Benoit, picking it up a couple of times. So it turns out that he's gone grey. Look at Marvin Benoit's aged worse than I have on the thumbnail. But it turns out that it wasn't ever a disaster letting Seko go, although Seko, to be fair, did win it twice as well after he first went to Manchester City. In fact, look at this for the Kev show. Dennis Simon, Blanco, Seko, and then Benoit. These are all my boys. That is lovely stuff. Golden Glove is basically the same deal, isn't it? Men's best player, again, pretty much the same as Ballon d'Or. Under 21 players we're probably not going to be aware of 5 years in the future. Likewise with the next gen. But there you go, boys and girls. That is a little snippet into what has gone on 5 years into the future. I am a little bit disappointed that no clubs really considered me to have made much of an impact on them after we did become the second most successful English manager in history, just a couple of points behind Bob Paisley. Bob Paisley, of course, gets to be a legend at Liverpool, but then I guess he did do it all there, whereas I did it across 6 different clubs. And I think it's fair to say most of them were left off better than we found them. Peterborough Sports, I mean, we always knew. To be fair, I did get Peterborough Sports promoted, but then they have gone back down again because they were just never set up financially. Preston have had the biggest impact of me being involved because they're still a Big Four team now, 10, 15 years after I left them. Spurs are still Spurs. I mean, I've left them unchanged. Same pretty much with Barcelona. Juventus finally won some Champions Leagues with my boys, and Liverpool have just carried on being Liverpool. So I said we'd find out the impact I had on the universe. You're welcome, Preston fans. We will be back Monday with a brand new series. I am very excited about it. It is like nothing I've ever done before. It's a little bit experimental, a little bit different, and I hope you enjoy it. Come and try it out. 4 o'clock Monday. It's going to be a lot of fun, and hopefully I will see you there. But if you have enjoyed this video, if you've enjoyed Non-League to Legend at any point this year, please leave a thumbs up on this video. We didn't release one yesterday, so we need this one to do 2 days worth of views. Subscribe to the channel for the new stuff that's coming out next week. We've got new save coming on here on the channel. Also on Twitch in the next few weeks, there'll be a new save as well. And of course, Non-League to Legend will be back for FM24 as soon as that game is released in like October, November time. But there's plenty more content between now and then. You don't need to go anywhere. Thanks for watching, folks. Toodle pip.